Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
That kid is back on the escalator again.
Ain't gonna hurt.
Is my boomstick!
Game over, man. It's game over.
Welcome to the February 2025 BS Bargain Bin Intermission. I don't want to say it. I was just about to do it too, because I'm so hardwired for it. But I was about to say, he is your host, Ben Mason.
Oh, well, he's your co-host, Sandro.
Yeah, it doesn't feel right for an intermission.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's been a while.
It has. So for people wondering, obviously it's been 9 months since our last official episode.
Yeah.
It's been 7 months since we did the last intermission episode, which was we were on hiatus. We made that announcement, and if I recall correctly, it was because of life circumstances.
Indeed.
That hiatus ended up going on for another 7 months, and it wasn't really life circumstances anymore. It was scheduling for Ben. So I'm not sure if you want to tell people what you've been up to, what you're allowed to say, if there's any sort of legalese about how detailed you can get into it, but maybe just kind of let people know where you've been.
Well, for the last while, I've been working as a financial tracker for a show. It's going to be put out. It's just the first season. I'm not sure when it's going to be put on any streaming service or where it goes from there. I'm just kind of waiting to hear.
So Ben was working 20-hour days, which is why he couldn't fit Bargain Bin into the schedule when focusing on that. And, fully supported by me. I will never stand in the way of him chasing his dream. It does, however, mean that there is a possibility that another hiatus is on the horizon.
Yeah, it sucks if that's the case, but also it's a really fun job that I really enjoy doing, and I've been trying to get back into the industry for a long time, so it just worked out really well.
And the unspoken suggestion there is that there might be a season 2, there might not be. There's no way to know, but if that is the case, then he might be back to 20-hour days.
Oh, definitely not 20-hour days. Let's not do that.
We'll see what it is.
Yeah, we'll see.
There might not be a season 2. As for me, I've been around. Nothing really changed on my schedule or routine. I've just been kind of waiting. I guess in the meantime, I did start another YouTube show because why not have 3?
Yeah.
So for anybody who doesn't know, I started working on a bit of a project. I was kind of helped developed by our friend Justin Newhook, who's been on the show multiple times. We did Mighty Ducks. He did the first season of Ninja Turtles with us, where I started interviewing independent wrestlers in both Ontario and Nova Scotia. It's been going since July now. I'm going to continue doing it for as long as I can, but I do plan to do Bargain Bin as long as we have the availability, the schedule to do so. So it's not going to interfere. If anything, it just means that if you like pro wrestling or just want to hear my voice some more, that you'll get double the content if you follow Independent Wrestling Profiles on Twitter, Instagram. It's IW Profiles. And pretty much I just leave links to it everywhere on my social media. But we're not here to talk about wrestling. We're not here to talk about my projects. We're not here to talk about your projects. We're here to do another intermission episode. And this is just more going to be like a connector until we get to regular episodes, which hopefully will start again soon. We did one of these before, and it was a lot of fun, where we didn't really do reviews. We just kind of talked about what we've been watching. And it's been 9 months, so I guess we've had to be a little more selective. I know for my list, I don't know about you, Ben, but I did stick to stuff that was more recent because honestly, looking back, I couldn't remember what stuff I before and after the hiatus. So I just went with the safer stuff that I knew was after. And I think I got a list of, looks like 9 movies.
Okay, I took maybe 3 or 4 minutes to jot down some titles, and I came up with 35.
Okay. So much like our Halloween episode, Ben went much further into it.
Yeah.
I will say I don't really have any TV shows because all of my actual TV show watching has been rewatching series. I rewatched all of Letterkenny. I rewatched Shoresy. I'm almost done rewatching Married with Children. I rewatched all of Anger Management, all of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. The only new show I started recently was Clarkson Farms, which is actually super fun because the name is it Jeremy Clarkson? What's the first name?
Yeah,
I know he was from Top Gear. His sense of humor is so good. I just love that like dry wit. There's a lot of sarcasm. It's so good. I'm on season 2 right now. It's a show I'm actually watching with my spouse, so I can't jump ahead. I have to wait for her, which is a testament to the show that bothers me because I want to watch more like right away.
Yeah, I didn't even know there was a second season. But if you're a fan of Clarkson stuff at all, he's written a few books too, and his sarcasm comes through very clearly in those. I highly recommend checking those out.
I think there might be. I don't know if it's 2 seasons or 3 seasons, but it's on the second year of his harvesting, and there's even a third section. I think they're called parts 1, 2, and 3. So I don't know how they were released at the time. How do you want to get into movies? Because you got a lot.
I won't go through all of them. I'll just pick and choose. I was just coming up with different titles I've seen, and I was just going to let it flow naturally. But I would like to start off with the fact that I finally got around to checking out the new Nosferatu film by Robert Eggers. And
you say finally, but that hasn't been out that long in relation.
I know. It came out on Christmas Day, though, so it's been out for over a month. It's
finally. What were you waiting for?
It's fine. I mean, I was really excited because the original 22 film I love so much, and this was when I watched it. I really enjoyed it. Skarsgård made some pretty interesting decisions with the vocal pattern of Count Orlok. But after that, we watched 92's Bram Stoker's Dracula, and Leah and I both agreed that it was a much more entertaining film. So while Nosferatu looks really good and sounds really good, it's a passable version of the story. I think that's probably going to get a lot of hate because I know everybody loves The Witch and The Northman. The only other film of his I've seen is The Lighthouse, and that is batshit insane. But if you like Robert Pattinson, you like Willem Dafoe and surrealist black and white filmmaking, it's great. Also a local Nova Scotia film. So it's
didn't you make me watch Bram Stoker's Dracula not that long ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I liked it.
Gary Oldman, Anthony Hopkins, Keanu Reeves.
I mean, hey, great cast. If we're going by a cast, it should be a phenomenal movie, but I didn't like it. And I haven't watched the new Nosferatu, but I was looking at the cast as well, and I'm like, okay, well, Nicholas Hoult, Willem Dafoe, like there's a bunch of actors I like in it, but you know, when both yourself and our friend Josh were telling me about the movie, they're like, well, if you liked his other movies, and they named them all, and I'm like, never seen them, so I don't know if this is for me per se.
He's gone out and said that he's never going to make a film set in the modern times, and his next movie is a werewolf film. I think it's actually called Werewolf. I hope it's better than Nosferatu. That's all I can say about that.
I'm going to pick a movie for my list that I'm sure you've probably watched and probably watched well before our hiatus, but I know you're such a big fan of the overall intellectual property. And I don't know if we ever had a chance to talk about it, but I did finally watch Furiosa.
Still haven't seen it.
Oh, so we can't talk about it that in depth. That surprises me because you're a big Mad Max fan.
Yeah, I am. And I really do want to check it out. I don't know why I haven't gotten around to it yet. It just seems like whenever I have free time to watch something, I'm not really feeling that. I've been sticking to a lot of horror lately. But feel free to talk about it. Like, I'm curious. Did you like it? Did you not? Why? Why not?
I wasn't the biggest fan of it. It's not like it was bad and I regretted it. But when I went into it, I had certain expectations because I've seen the Mad Max movies and I've seen the newer Mad Max. And when I go into a movie that I expect to be part of that brand, I want like all out action. I want like just ridiculousness. And while it had some action, I found that this film really did focus a little too much on the story and in particular the character development of the title character Furiosa, which wouldn't be bad in any other circumstance, but this is Mad Max. I don't want to see character development for, 80% of the movie. You can throw that in there, but I want action. And, there was these like split time between like her upbringing and then also where she was in her current day. And it's like, it wasn't like poorly done, but it just wasn't what I was expecting going into it. And I know that it's got a lot of praise, and I'm sure that people that can remove themselves from expectation would probably enjoy it a lot more than I did. But, and it might have been even my mindset, because when I want to watch it, I just wanted an all-out action movie, and I didn't want to think, right? That's like, to me, that's Mad Max. And that's not meant to be like an insult. Mad Max should be, you can leave your brain at the door and just be entertained by balls to the wall action. Yeah. And with this, it was like, no, stop making me try and think. I don't want to do that. So I wouldn't say like I disliked it, but I was pretty indifferent towards it. Like, I didn't come out of it thinking like I wasted my time watching it, but it's like, yeah, I would just rather go back and watch Mad Max over seeing this again.
I've heard from a lot of people that it does a lot of world building. Do you think that might benefit other Mad Max movies moving forward now that there might be more substance to work with?
Was it ever really necessary? Like, how many Mad Max movies in the franchise did we already have where it was fine? Like, you had a formula, it worked.
Yeah, 4. There were 4 of them, but I mean, the third one was hot garbage. And 1 is debatable amongst a lot of people. I love it, but most casual film goers I've talked to don't really care about the first one. It's always about Road Warrior and Fury Road. So maybe giving them more substance to like give a different environment set between Furiosa and Fury Road could be a breath of fresh air for the casual viewer. Maybe.
Yes. I don't know. I mean, it's not like the franchise was struggling in regards to popularity and success. As soon as the name came out for a remake of Mad Max, everybody was on board and everybody loved it. And it had minimal, we'll call it substance. And nobody had an issue with that. I mean, generalizing. Obviously, some people probably disliked it. But, when Mad Max came out, people loved it because it was just a balls-to-the-wall action movie. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I haven't really seen a really good action movie in a while now. I mean, any that I've been watching have pretty much been repeat viewings of older 80s, 90s movies. I watched all 4 American Ninja movies recently.
Oh, man, I've been meaning
that
to get
was something.
Elaborate.
No, I mean, they're all on Tubi, right? So if you don't mind an ad every now and then, it's pretty great. The first 2, fantastic. The third one is a sequel, and the fourth one is pretty entertaining too.
Was it the same actor that played the American Ninja all throughout, or did they change at any point?
Michael Dudikoff, they dropped in the third movie, but it came back for 4.
Okay, so just one without it. Yeah, I've been meaning to watch those. I know that I watched one of them. I don't even know which one when I was a kid with my cousin, and I don't really remember much of it. But it is a series that's been on my radar to watch for a while.
Mm-hmm. It's fun. That's all I can say. If you got time to kill and you want to watch mindless action, you could do a lot worse.
Yeah, Furiosa, because it didn't. Because that's exactly what I wanted: time to kill, and I wanted mindless action. What other movie would you pick off your list before I go to another one of mine?
Well, I watched one this morning from last year. It was on Shudder called Getaway or Getaway. It really depends on how you want to pronounce it because it's a double entendre. It's a comedy horror with Nick Frost. It felt a lot like Hot Fuzz at the beginning, which was fantastic because I love that movie. But as it kind of went on, it just kind of started to drag. And then something happens midpoint where I did not see this coming, and I got me right back into the movie, and then it started to drag again. And then there was a little pop at the end, and I'm glad I watched it, but it was a really weird ebb and flow that I'm not used to in those films. It's not related to the Cornetto trilogy or anything, but it had that feeling to it. The story's fun. I did not expect it to have as much gore as it did, and it was over the top, and I laughed out loud quite a few times, but it could have been trimmed down a bit. So if you like Shaun of the Dead, you like Hot Fuzz, I would definitely recommend Getaway. I think it's actually leaving Shudder soon, so it'll probably pop up on another streaming service. But definitely check it out. I want to know what you think.
Does it have Simon Pegg in it?
It does not. No.
Okay. Because I'm just so used to seeing them together. But like hot take time, and it's time for people to start hating me. I'm not a fan of any of those movies.
I mean, you're one of the few, I guess.
I get to hear it a lot when I mention it about Shaun of the Dead. People are a little bit more okay with me not being a fan of Hot Fuzz. And whatever that bar at the end of the world movie was, the bar hopping one. I don't even remember what it was called. I hated that one. So it's like...
It was the weakest, for sure.
Yeah. So, like, I'm not a fan of any of them. So, I mean, like, maybe I'll like it, but odds are not on my side for that.
Yeah, well, with Hot Fuzz, it was the amount of like shocking violence that people didn't expect, and that carries through into this movie too. So, like, even like Timothy Dalton getting like the top of the model like driven through the bottom of his jaw and out of his mouth, it was shocking at the time, and you get a lot of stuff like that. So, it's fine.
Yeah. I know going into a movie like Hot Fuzz, that's not what you expect to see.
Exactly, and that's what this was.
So, do you want me to pick a movie from my list of the better movies or the really bad movies I saw?
Let's go with bad.
So, probably the worst movie I've watched in the last 9 months and in the last few years that I can recall was Borderlands. I know that I had already been told at the time that I watched it how horrible it was. I knew that the ratings were terrible. I knew that it flopped in the box office. I knew all of these things. And there was actually like one day where I was taking a sick day from work. And I was just like laying on the couch, unable to do anything. And I know I even said this to Josh when I was talking about it. I already felt bad. I figured I couldn't feel any worse. And no, I could feel a lot worse. This movie was an abomination to film. It should not exist. And like, I come from the standpoint of being a fan of the franchise and a fan of the video games. And one of the things that I love about the video games, outside of the co-op aspect, was the sense of humor in them, which by the time they got to the third one was a lot of potty humor that had really started to just miss the point. And that's what Borderlands felt like to me. Outside of casting as well, which it really feels like when it comes to casting, they were just like, we're not even going to bother trying to match it, right? Like, nobody's going to say Cate Blanchett is a bad actress or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Cate Blanchett? I think it was.
I believe so.
But like in the video games, Lilith is like a young vault hunter. And it's just like this, like this doesn't make sense. And like, Tannis, who's played by, I'm drawing a blank now on her name. Halloween.
Jamie Lee Curtis?
There we go. Jamie Lee Curtis plays a character that in the video games is like, I don't get it. And like Kevin Hart plays Roland, who is supposed to be a very large, imposing military figure who's very stoic, right? Part of the humor that came from... Yeah, part of the humor from Roland in the games was that like he was the very straight man who had like very matter-of-fact responses to humorous situations. I think almost like Batista in Guardians of the Galaxy. Like the humor came from him just not getting the gravity of the situation and always being way too even keel and flat. And you cast Kevin Hart. It's like, do you even know the franchise that you're trying to make a movie of? I sat there trying to think of one redeeming feature that I could complement the movie with after the fact, and I failed to do so. It was boring. It was hard to sit through. The casting was terrible. The humor fell flat on its face to the point that I think maybe once I got to the point where my lip maybe curled a little bit. And then it was over, and that was my favorite part of it. And honestly, I was happy to go back to laying in bed sick after that.
What was the runtime on it? Like hour and a half?
I felt like a week and a half.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that's not the... I mean, like, I can look it up, but, like, this movie should be avoided by everybody at all costs. And I really should have known better, because it's rare that a movie comes out that is so universally hated where there isn't even some defenders of it. but all I saw online was hate, and there was nobody even trying to spin a positive light on it. Hour 41 minutes, and let me tell you, it feels like a lot longer. So, Borderlands. That's my review of it. Don't watch it. Ever. There's nothing on my list that will get worse than this.
It wasn't even on my list, but you mentioned Batista. I watched Knock at the Cabin.
Okay.
Have you seen that one yet?
No, I haven't.
I don't know if it's really your kind of film, but I heard people just shitting on it all the time. I really enjoyed it. Thought it was quite good. I realized how much I actually like Batista's acting, and I'm glad that he's shifted fully into that now. So I'm really looking forward to see what he does next.
I can't think of too many roles I've seen him in. Not that I've seen all of his films or anything that I thought he was bad. He absolutely excelled in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. I think he plays that type of humor perfectly. Plus, of course, the imposing physique. But just in general, like, he's become a pretty decent actor. And I haven't seen it yet, but I have one of his movies on my list of movies to watch with The Killer's Game or something I think it was called.
Yeah,
so I'm looking forward to watching that one. So
yeah, I'll give that a go too. I do want to mention one TV show very, very quickly. It's not new. It came out just over 4 years ago. The Outsider. It's based off the Stephen King novel.
Yeah, you were telling me about that a little bit off camera.
Yeah, it's surprisingly good. It only goes for one season. It wraps everything up very well. But it kind of feels like The Dark Half mixed with It Chapter 2. It's almost like Stephen King's self-plagiarizing. But they took the best elements of both of those stories and put them together in a very well-crafted short television season. It looks amazing. Sound design's fantastic. The acting is wonderful. It's, if you get a chance, check it out. I think it's on Crave now. I can't remember, but I watched it a little while ago. But tell me one of your good movies you watched.
Real quick though, it just had one season.
Yep.
But it was a season that was like pre-planned to be one. It's not like, oh, we're going to leave a cliffhanger for a season 2 that just never comes. Like it's got a finite start and end with that season.
Yeah, the entire story wraps up.
Okay, good. Because I'm so tired of shows that are phenomenal, at least from what I think, and then for whatever reason, critical or reception, whatever, it just gets canceled. And you're like, well, thanks for getting me invested that I can no longer watch any more of this.
Good movie. What's a good one?
So the most recent good movie I watched was last week. I had the Josh and Alex over, and we watched Sonic 3.
Okay.
And honestly, I am so surprised that this franchise hasn't had a dud yet, because I enjoyed the first one. It was successful. It was a well-done video game movie, so they got a sequel. And they didn't phone it in. The sequel ended up, in my opinion, being better than the first. And, we figured, okay, eventually they might kind of drop the ball and make a bad movie, but we watched the first 2 together. Let's watch the third one together.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's now my favorite in the franchise. Like this series keeps getting better. And I think it's the addition of characters that are like expanding the universe, but keeping it in the same vein. I'd say that the biggest complaint I had with this movie is that it didn't need to be Keanu Reeves, right? Like Shadow has...
I didn't even know he was in it.
So Keanu Reeves plays the voice of the new character, Shadow. Okay. And Shadow doesn't have a personality, right? Like
that's perfectly cast then.
But that's the thing, right? Like, it's obviously it's a poster bullet point. You want to get people into your movie because it's got Keanu Reeves, but it's like could have been anybody, because there's just like there's nothing there, right? Like even with Knuckles, when you had Idris Elba in there, like there was a like an emphasis in the voice, there was an inflection, the way he spoke. It actually benefited the character a lot that he put a lot into it. With Shadow, it was like it's so monotone. It could be anybody, right? And that's obviously that's a nitpicking complaint. Obviously, I don't have an issue with them getting Keanu Reeves, but it just feels like, okay, well, if you're going to get Keanu Reeves, it's almost like saying, okay, Vin Diesel is the voice of Groot. I was like, okay, well, okay.
Like, he's pretty good as Groot, though. I mean, come on.
but if you hear that movie, like you watch that movie without knowing ahead of time that it's Vin Diesel, you're never going to be like, oh, that's Vin Diesel who's saying that one word over and over again, right?
Oh yeah, somebody with no personality having to repeat one line over and over. I think that's perfect.
I know, but these are names in Hollywood, right? So if you're going to get the names, you figure you would utilize them a little bit more. That being said, though, there's no level of compliments that I can lay towards Jim Carrey. His performance in it is stellar. He does the dual performance, playing two characters, and he's so good. And like, I was even looking at his IMDb when we watched it, because I'm like, he's not even doing that many movies now, which, like, all the power to him. He's had a career. He's getting older. He can lay back and take it easy if he wants to. But there's got to be a reason that like these Sonic movies are the ones that he's choosing to do. Because like if you look at it, between like the first three, he's only done like one or two tops movies. And for some reason he keeps coming back to them. And I don't know if it's like a love of the franchise or a love of the character or the script, but you watch it and you're like, man, he's giving it his all. And it shows, and it's so good.
Yeah, I was really curious about that too. It seems like a weird franchise for him to be a part of, but I've only seen the first movie, and he knocked that one out of the park. So I'll definitely check out 2 and 3. But what a weird character to attach yourself to and not do other things.
Yeah, I don't know. And they've already announced that a 4th one is coming.
Of course.
I don't know.
Idiots not to.
Well, I mean, it's. I think it's like, other than Mario Brothers, which was a single movie, but like it's one of the few video game franchises that broke $1 billion in box office. Now it took the combined 3 movies effort, but that's still a reason to keep going. And like they already announced, I looked it up after because I'm like, I wonder if they're going to keep going. And yeah, I think it was like March 2027 or something, they're going to make a Sonic 4. And Jim Carrey even said when he sees a script, if he likes it, he'll come back for it.
That's awesome.
He loves playing this character for some reason. And you know what?
He's great at it.
It comes through. Because like when you're watching it, he is a delight. And the movies are great. And like there's one part where, because they have James Marsden, is it? What's Cyclops' name, the actor? Is it James Marsden?
You got it. Yep.
He's in it again, playing, the sheriff that Sonic lives with. But they also brought in Jessica Jones actress, who I can't remember her name right now.
Last name Ritter?
Yeah. It's the first name that I'm lost on too. So it's both of us that don't know her first name.
That's unfortunate. Let me see. But keep going.
But there's a part where she comes in as a new character and she's going to get them to like go with her, but James Marsden stays back, and I'm like, it's the Marvel crossover we didn't know we almost had.
Kristen
Ritter. Okay, she was great in Jessica Jones. She didn't have much of a role in this one to say if she was great or not great, but like, yeah, when they were about to go away, I'm like, we almost had Cyclops and Jessica Jones together. But Sonic 3, I recommend.
So one of your worst and one of your best are video game movies. If you could pick a franchise to get a feature film, what would it be?
Dark Souls.
You think would be successful? Dark Souls. Interesting.
Yeah. Dark Souls, Demon Souls, whatever you want to call it, that franchise would make a phenomenal, dark, gritty fantasy movie, in my opinion. I don't know.
That's pretty niche.
It was not anymore. Not anymore. No. Like it's especially with the release of Elden Ring and its DLC, it has become a household name to the point like I go to J&J Collectibles and there's like 6 board games now sitting on the shelf for it, which is ridiculous. If not that, like a good Legend of Zelda movie would be fun just for like my, personal back history with like Super Nintendo games and things like that. But like Dark Souls would probably be my number 1 choice.
Yeah, Zelda would be absolutely amazing, but can you imagine, like, it doesn't matter how good that movie is, there'd be so many people who would just shit all over it.
Well, if you ever watched the cartoon series, it's for good reason. Like,
yeah, I know.
Like, that cartoon series put video game cartoons back like a decade. And that's why I say, like, Mario Brothers came out, and it redeemed the franchise after the Super Mario Super Show and the terrible Super Mario Brothers movie that we reviewed. So obviously it's within their capability to do it, but like Legend of Zelda, I almost would be hesitant for them to do it because I don't want them to ruin it and make it bad.
I'd have to go with Red Dead.
I mean, you're a big fan of Western, and Red Dead is very story heavy. Part of the biggest acclaim that it gets is for its storytelling. So obviously that could convey to movie very well. And I'm sure that would be a huge box office mover just on name alone before reviews came out. Like, I think even if it was a poor movie, it would probably have a good initial box office just from people who want to go see Red Dead.
Yeah, I think so too. And I am a massive Western fan, so I would love to see that. But the story is absolutely amazing. Even if you just want to go to like the first one it has an amazing story. Even just the characters were so fantastic in it. Second one blew me out of the water. I haven't even finished playing it yet, and I've been putting in God knows how many hours. I bought it when it came out. All right.
So those were my only 2 video game movies on my list, though.
That's fine. I don't think I have any video game movies on my list. Do you want a good one or a bad one?
Bad one.
The Crow. Second Bill Skarsgård movie on this list. That movie sucked. It was so bad, man. It was so bad. Like, once you start bringing the devil into things, it just... The first movie was so good. It was just so good. And a tragic story behind it. They messed this one up so bad. Like, there's some fun action scenes, but I didn't care. Like, they weren't even redeeming enough for me to, like, be happy that I saw it and just dislike the movie. When it was over, I was just angry. Like, I could have watched something better, like The Crow with Brandon Lee.
What was part of that driven by your enjoyment of the first one? Like, was that comparison part of it that brought it down, or would it have been a bad movie regardless?
I don't think you could do it properly anymore. The 90s one was done perfectly. Bill Skarsgård, I think, was probably one of the only people you could cast who could do it justice. And I'm not saying he was terrible, actually. If I've said that, I'll take a step back. He was fine. The character was poorly written, which sucks because you have so much source material. The story was absolutely ridiculous. But a lot of people put a lot of hard work into it. It is a very good-looking movie. Technically, I have zero complaints. It's just the story itself. Woof.
That's a shame, too, because I've been really liking Skarsgård lately.
He's great. He's amazing.
He's been doing so much good stuff, and maybe it's just been me seeing more of it. But like he's climbing the ranks on actors I really enjoy. So it's always a kick in the teeth when you see him do not a bad job, but pick a bad role.
Yeah. No, I guarantee he delivered what was asked of him, because he always does. I can't wait to see what he does next. I'm really looking forward to anything he does in the future. But yeah, it was rough. It was real rough.
I'm sorry to hear that, man. Especially because I know you love the first one. I'm wondering if we have any crossover movies on our lists.
I'll tell you a movie that I started watching and then just quit watching halfway in.
Okay.
The Beast Within with why am I forgetting his name now? Jon Snow from Game of Thrones. Kit Harington?
Because that's what we do. We forget people's names.
Yeah. It's just it's so slow, and there's not much story there, and I didn't finish watching it, so I can't say if I was right or wrong, but it feels like the entire story is just an allegory for what I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be a werewolf movie, and they set it up to be a werewolf movie, but I don't think we get a werewolf. Again, I don't know, I didn't finish it, but it just kind of felt like they were using it as a metaphor for growing as a human being and discovering that your parents aren't perfect and you have your own flaws. I could tell that I was being set up to be disappointed. We just turned it off. So if anybody watched it and loved it, then at me, because if it does follow through, I'll finish it. But it didn't look like it was going that way. It was too slow.
It's not what you watch a werewolf movie for,
right?
Right? Like it's like, again, it could be a good movie too. I mean, I know for this example, it's a bad movie in your opinion, but like even if a movie is good, if you go into it expecting something different, like give me what I'm looking for, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was marketing. They set it up to look like an action horror film. If you watch the trailer for it,
Okay.
it looks absolutely amazing. And then like 45 minutes into it, when you had maybe 10 seconds of what could be creepy footage, you're done. You're done.
Oh, man, that's awful. So a movie that maybe you watched that's on my list, Beetlejuice.
Haven't seen it yet. Nope.
Oh, geez. Okay, I
No,
thought
I
that would
really
be
want
one
to.
of the ones that maybe you did see. Honestly, I didn't care for it.
Yeah, I'm hearing that from a few people, which is really
Uh,
disappointing.
Like Beetlejuice is one of those situations where it's like, in my opinion, you waited too long to make a sequel.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to go back to the well now. It's great that you got a lot of the original cast back, but it's like there's nothing really of substance in the movie. It's almost like in the movie, Winona Ryder, Lydia, her daughter goes almost through like the same things she did, and then turns to Beetlejuice for help, and you're like, it feels like a lot of similar story beats, and yes, there is a different twist on it, but it's just like I just like it was over, and I'm like, I didn't care. Right?
That's unfortunate.
Right? Like outside of nostalgia, like it's probably worth a viewing for big fans of the original movie just to see some of these characters and kind of what they thought they would be doing later on. But beyond that, I don't think that there's much. Even some of the touches, like they got rid of the guy who plays the dad. I can't remember his name now. From
Jeffrey Jones.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with reason.
Yes, with reason. But he's still technically in the movie because there was one scene of claymation where they have like a claymation version of him. I know Beetlejuice likes to do some of those. That's telling like a bit of a backstory about him. And then this is a bit of a spoiler, but his character is dead in the movie. And what they did was the ghost version of him, he died by having a shark bite off his head. So his character is a ghost without a head. So it's like we completely navigated not having the actor in there, but
That's
still
amazing.
get to utilize the character fully by using one scene of claymation and then having a storyline reason that it's just like a body with no head that represents his character for the rest of the story, which
brilliant.
I thought was actually,
I love that.
Yeah, very clever way to do it. But then like there's like almost like 3 plots in the movie with Beetlejuice's like first, I guess, wife, if he had technically more than one, because I don't think Lydia counted in the second movie, whatever. There's the story with Lydia's daughter and then the story with Lydia. And like individually, none of them feel that pressing. Like, you watch a movie and usually most of the time you expect that the good guys will prevail in the end. And some of the fun and suspense is, how are we going to overcome this? And like for all 3 of them, you're like, none of these feel that pressing or insurmountable. Even as a combination, they don't feel that bad. And like they try to build up Beetlejuice's first wife as the big baddie in the movie. Mm-hmm. And like she's like, they just brush her away near the end where it's like, okay, we'll do what everybody expects and twist Beetlejuice into going from helping them to being the villain. And then he'll be defeated in the flash of an eye. It's like, did you even try? Right? Just watch it for nostalgia and then go back and if you ever need to do repeat viewings, do so of the first movie.
Yeah, which I have done recently, so I really did enjoy it. I love that movie. But you're kind of making me not want to watch it.
Some of the best parts of it are just like some of those like clever scenes. The Danny DeVito cameo is great. Like there's a few fun moments, but like as a whole, meh. Right? Willem Dafoe's great in it. I really enjoyed his character. He plays like a afterlife like detective. who's trying to track down Beetlejuice's wife. His character is maybe the highlight of the movie for me. But like I said, it's forgettable. You can watch it once
that sucks.
and be done with it. So what do you got? I really thought that was going to be one you had on your list.
No, I'll definitely let you know what I think of it when I watch it, because it's going to happen soon. Have you seen Alien Romulus?
Nope.
Don't. What about Werewolves?
Nope.
Oh, you should definitely check out Werewolves.
Uh-huh.
2024, Frank Grillo. I don't think you've seen the Purge movies, but you're aware of what they are, right?
I've seen the first Purge movie.
Okay. Imagine the Purge, but with werewolves.
So similar idea, people lock themselves up not because of a purge, but because of a werewolf situation?
Yeah, basically the story is at one point there was this massive supermoon, and across the globe, billions of people turned into werewolves. So now time's come around where this supermoon's going to happen again, and people are just prepping themselves, because you never know, were the people who turned into werewolves before going to turn into them again? The people that didn't, are they going to turn into them? But it's only when you're hit by the moonlight that it happens. So it's get inside your house, batten down the hatches, pray to dear God no one tries to get in, and it's just a really fun action horror film. It was surprisingly fun.
I love that concept. Like, I loved it in The Purge, and I would have no problem seeing it utilized again.
Yeah. And I highly recommend checking it out. Is it the best movie you're going to see all year? Hell no. But it's really entertaining.
No. I'm saving the best movie I'm going to see all year for last.
Okay. Hit me with another one.
So one of the only like old movies that I watched recently was I finally watched Hot Rod.
I've never seen it.
Like the Andy Samberg comedy where he is a stuntman, and I had a blast with it. It's a stupid movie. Like Ian McShane plays, I guess it's his stepdad. I'm a little fuzzy on the details. I watched this one when I was sick too. But the whole thing is that like ever since he was growing up, they would fight, and Ian McShane would always beat him. And now Ian McShane needs like a transplant or he's going to die. So Andy Samberg tries to raise money as a daredevil to get him the transplant so that he can still kick his ass.
All right, that's pretty funny.
And like he has his crew, Bill Hader and Danny McBride and one of the guys from Lonely Island. I can't remember their names. I don't know if I even learned them in the first place. And they just go on this mission to raise money by doing like little stunts and birthday parties to gain the money to do a big stunt to earn the larger amount of funds that they need for the stunt. And like the movie is just so stupid that you just can't help but laugh. And honestly, I had a blast with it. And like it helps that I'm a big fan of like Ian McShane. I really do like Andy Samberg, especially, I've been watching a lot of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. The movie is just fun, like there's, if you go into it with a critical eye, like it's a movie we could never do for our show. Okay. I know we talked about it in the past, like slapstick humor is bad to review in the first place, but it's also the type of movie that you should never try to dissect. Like you just watch it and laugh.
Do you think I should check it out if I really don't like Andy Samberg?
Sure. Check it out anyway.
Oh, yeah. Very fucking convincing.
I don't know how strongly you feel towards him. Like the movie I thought was just dumb fun, right? Like there's even like a Chris Parnell scene where he is like
radio. He's always good.
Yeah, he's like a radio owner, or like he owns a radio company or something like that, and he wants to sponsor him. And he wants to do so because he wants to put the stunt on radio. And it's just like, how entertaining can like a bus jump be on the radio? But Chris Parnell's character hates modern media. So he shows him a tattoo of like that pissing kid, the cartoon like that's peeing.
Calvin.
And he's peeing. Yeah, and he's peeing on like a TV and an internet connection. And it's just like, this makes no sense. It's so weird, but you enjoy it because it's so stupid. Right.
I might just give it a shot anyway.
It is exactly what you would watch when you literally don't want to think. Like, we complained about, or at least I did, about movies that are not what you expect going into them, right? Furiosa, good or bad movie, however you take it, is not what I expect from Mad Max. What I expect going into Hot Rod is just a completely stupid movie that I can turn my brain off and have a few laughs. And that's exactly what it does. And it doesn't try to be anything else, right? And to that, I really enjoy it.
Okay. I mean, you talked it up enough. I'll give it a shot.
There's a scene where Bill Hader needs to be taken to the hospital. And that's all I'm going to say. But like, Andy Samberg is driving him to the hospital, and it's just hilarious because Bill Hader's got like this shrapnel in his head, and he has no idea what's going on. It's so good.
All right, I'll check it out. I mean, I love the entire supporting cast. So why not give it a shot?
Amy Adams, I think, is the love interest. And like, there's of course, like, Andy Samberg, the joke is that he's a terrible stuntman. And like, she wants to join his crew, and there's like a scene where she does like all these like motorcycle tricks, and he's just sitting there looking so dejected. He knows like she's better than me.
Sounds like a Super Dave Osborne origin story.
Yeah. Honestly, if this was meant to be like a dumb parody for an Osborne, like origin, I would buy it. Like, it's
okay.
Great.
That's fine by me then.
And like, the cast is phenomenal. So,
checked out Suitable Flesh, directed by our buddy Joe Lynch. And it felt like an homage to Full Moon Features, Charles Band's movies from the 90s, which I love. It's a very niche genre of filmmaking. But it was, why am I drawing a blank? Heather Graham is phenomenal in this movie, to the point where it was such a nostalgia trip for me. And this movie's from 2023, but it put me right back in the mid-90s. As soon as I was done watching it, like streaming it on Shudder, I just ordered the Blu-ray.
I'll probably enjoy it. Yeah. I'll probably enjoy it just because I have such a crush on Heather Graham.
Yeah, and then she's just so good in this movie. I won't say she holds everything together, but she doesn't, because the supporting cast is actually really good too. But it's just really nice to see her take center stage again and do it so well. I'm just going to run through a couple things and just say yay or nay on them, because I do.
If I've seen them, or if I want to dive into them.
Oh, no. You haven't seen any of this.
Okay. That's very bold of you, sir.
An old TV series, not old, it's from 2017, a show called Damnation, set during the Great Depression in the American Midwest. A recent, I think I've talked about it before because Logan Marshall Green's in it. A new priest comes to town and kind of organizes farmers to go on strike. And then another man sent from the government arrives in the town to act as a strike breaker. And it's all about the heated conflict between the two. Very, very good. Watched The Ward recently, the last movie directed by John Carpenter. It was from 2010. Talked about it on Hey, Did You See This One? Don't see this one.
I actually got my fill of you talking about that one because I tuned into that episode.
It's so bad.
Yeah,
I hate saying it.
It left me quite content not watching it. So
I'm just finishing up the last season of Ozark. I've held off for so long. One of those shows that you start watching and you just give up on immediately for no real reason, just didn't grab you. Decided to start it again and hooked immediately, and I've flown through it. It's phenomenal. But I just like Jason Bateman. Now, out of nowhere, do I like him? I couldn't even watch Teen Wolf 2 back in the day. I couldn't do Arrested Development. But I loved him in Ozark, and I stumbled upon the movie Carry On from last year. Did you watch that?
No, I
believe it's on Netflix. Taron Egerton and Jason Bateman. The last movie that had my attention that firmly that I watched was Speed when that came out in the 90s. Like, I was hooked immediately. And I have nothing negative to say about that film. I loved it.
All right, then.
Give me one of your bad ones.
I only have one bad one left.
Okay.
And it was another movie I watched last week. It was Venom: The Last Dance.
Better than Let There Be Carnage.
Is that the movie that we both have seen? Of
Yes.
all the movies, the one that we've both seen is Venom: The Last Dance.
Well, I love the Venom character. You know I'm going to watch it.
I love the Venom character, and I love Tom Hardy.
Oh, who doesn't love Tom Hardy?
Exactly. I will say this, much like Venom 1, which I kind of will try to ignore that Venom 2 even exists. But Venom 1, I found somewhat enjoyable as an action movie, but I thought it was a terrible Venom movie.
Yes, I agree.
Going into it with no knowledge of Venom is probably the best way to enjoy it, because it's not bad from an action standpoint, but if you have any preconceived notions or expectations of Venom, they blew it. And similar thing to the third one. The third one, again, it didn't feel like Venom's personality. It didn't feel like the character. It didn't feel like a storyline that he would really be involved in, other than trying to throw other symbiotes in there. But as an action movie, it was okay. And what really held it up for me is Tom Hardy's performance was fantastic. Some of the scenes where he is just like completely disheveled, dejected, walking around, no shoes on, he plays it so well. And he's such a lovable character in this form of Eddie Brock that you want to root for him. And the movie's okay. Special effects are fine, but just like nothing happens in it. I mean, I found I enjoyed a few of the touches where there was characters that worked together in other things. Like the one character played Rosie in Letterkenny, and I just recently rewatched the whole thing. She's the one I really wish I knew her name, but I'm not going to pretend like I'm ever good at that. But she was the one that was obsessed with symbiotes for some reason, and then became one herself. But then the kind of lackey to the military guy was also in Letterkenny as their cousin for a couple of episodes. So I was like, oh, hey, cool. Look at that. A little bit of a connection. And there was one other one in the movie as well that Ted Lasso. There was a connection because the bartender as well as the main scientist were both in Ted Lasso, which is another show that I will always recommend and loved thoroughly and have watched, I think, 3 times through now. Which is easier for me to do with it being less seasons. But yeah, that movie, it's just it feels like it's lost and doesn't know what it's going for. It's hey, we want to put Venom on screen because people like Venom, right? Venom's cool. Yep. How are we going to do it? Whatever. Just do something. Right? That's the feeling I get with it, right?
It's stitched together.
It was honestly, it was better than the second one, and it wasn't it was a slog to get through. But at the same time, it's just Venom's cool, but this isn't Venom. It's it's the Temu version of Venom, and it's really good. But everything around it is the case is broken, the delivery was bad. It's just I don't know what else I can say about Venom. It just disappointed me.
Yeah, I don't think we're ever going to get a good Venom movie. Much like I think we probably won't get a good Punisher movie. So
we got a good Punisher TV show.
No, we got a Punisher TV show.
What? That show was fantastic.
I disagree. I really didn't like it.
I'm so excited for the revival too.
Say what now?
So they've already announced that they're doing Daredevil Reborn. Now that Disney has Marvel, they're doing a new show, and they got Charlie Cox coming back as Daredevil, and they're gonna have the same actor who I, again, don't know his name. He was Shane in Walking Dead. He was the Punisher in the first TV show. He's going to be Punisher in the Deadpool or in the Daredevil show. But he's also going to have a revival show of Punisher on Disney as well, from what I heard.
Great. I can't wait to see Disney's Punisher.
I mean, I
have high hopes there.
I liked the Netflix Punisher. I mean, I don't want to, unapologetically, I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I thought he was fantastic in it. I don't have a lot of knowledge of the character from the comic books prior to, so that might have been
That's it.
That might have been easier for me to disconnect. But it was good action. It was, I thought it was a good story. I thought it had some touching moments. I thought that him as the lead was phenomenal. So yeah, I'm looking forward to more of that as a non Punisher fan in general.
they could have done worse. They definitely could have done worse. It's just I don't. The Punisher was such a character of his time that to update it, I feel like you're losing a lot of what made him the Punisher back in the day. I don't know. I think it's a character that should just really be left alone now, unless you're going to do a period piece. I would love to see that. Do like a gritty, like you never saw a Brawl in Cell Block 99, right?
Maybe.
I'll take that as no.
Wait, hold on. Is that Vince Vaughn?
Yeah.
No, I watched it after you recommended it to me.
Okay, it's insanely brutal, right?
I do listen to you from time to time. Yes, I did go and actually watch that movie. I think more than anything, what piqued my curiosity was seeing Vince Vaughn in that role. And
he killed it.
It was a brutal movie. I didn't care for the ending, but yes, I did watch that movie after you suggested it to me.
Don Johnson was great in that too. But the soundtrack made it feel like it was a certain time. The way it was filmed made it look like a certain era, even though it was set in modern times. Had they done that with The Punisher, I think I would have enjoyed it a little bit more than I did. Because you need to make it feel a little bit more retro, because he was at his peak in the 80s, early 90s. So when you put him in like 2010s, it just feels like a character out of place. But yeah, I mean, I'll give it a go. I didn't know that was in production. I'll give any Punisher thing a go. And hopefully I enjoy it more.
I could be wrong on the Punisher revival, although I feel like I did read that. But I know that he will be reprising the role, at least in Daredevil Reborn.
Yeah, it's a property not to sleep on. I mean, there's so much money behind that you could make. Switching gears, for anybody who likes like slow, drawn-out horror, Apartment 7A was really, really good. It was a prequel to Rosemary's Baby. And it feels deservingly so. You could watch them as a double feature, and it would feel like an amazing long story told. Nothing negative to say. I was really, really happy. I was very hesitant, but it's on some of the streaming services, so I'd recommend checking that one out. As well as In a Violent Nature. Have you heard about that one at all?
No, don't even know its existence.
Yeah, it feels very much like an A24 film. It might actually be, but it's Canadian. It's kind of like a Canadian Friday the 13th.
Okay.
but you follow the killer the entire time.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Except imagine for the duration of the story, you're just an over-the-shoulder shot of Jason. He doesn't say anything. He's just trudging through the woods, long, drawn-out periods of walking, and he'll kill a few people. Then he'll walk some more.
Yeah, that wouldn't be that great. But
it is very brutally violent when the kills happen. So for any hardcore horror fan, it's great.
You couldn't put a camera on Jason's shoulder, because then you'd see how he teleports all over the place, and it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, which I would love to see. That'd be great. And no explanation whatsoever.
No.
Don't tell anybody how that happens. Just do it. God, that'd be amazing. Or it's just kind of like the Raimi like Evil Dead camera on a 2x4, run it through the forest kind of thing.
It's like, how does he not move at this speed all the time?
Yeah, right. Oh, they're looking. Slow.
That's the biggest joke I had when I was watching Pumpkinhead back in the day. It's just like, he walked so slow when he was on camera, and then they get in a car and they're driving away, and all of a sudden he's like, oh, he's in front of us. Like, how?
That's why it had to be Blood Wings for part 2, so he can move faster. It's explained.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Sandcastle, 2017. U.S. military in the Middle East movie. Stars Nicholas Hoult, doing a great job, as always. Supporting cast includes Logan Marshall Green. Very, very good. Not really my type of movie, but the story was gripping enough that I stuck with it, and I appreciated everything in it. The entire cast did a great job. And if it held my attention, and I don't really care for that type of military film, like, you definitely give it a shot if you stumble upon it. It's good.
Well, yeah, we get it. You like Logan Marshall Green. Quit telling us all the time.
American
You know what
Tom
it's
Hardy.
like to have to listen to you talk about one actor over and over again?
How many Scott Adkins movies are on this list?
None.
What?
None.
Okay. Why? Are we doing a Scott Adkins episode?
Well, because I haven't watched any recently, and I can't remember which ones I watched like a while ago and already talked to you about, and which ones were new. Like I haven't watched a Scott Adkins movie in some months.
Okay. That's surprising. But you probably checked them all out already.
No. I still have my my list of movies to watch, and I think I got like 10 Scott Adkins movies still on that list of movies to watch. Because like there's a whole bunch when I went through his IMDb that I was looking at that I was like curious to see, where it's like he just plays like a minor nothing role. So it's like I'm not going to bother that. But like I was looking for kind of like leading roles he's in, and yeah, I still have like a good 10 to go that are just
80,
like on my
84
list.
down, 190 to go.
The guy works. He does a lot of work. But no, I don't have any on this list. I actually only have one last movie on my list.
Oh, really? Well, let me throw a few more out there first. The Substance. Have you heard about that at all? No? It's actually up for some decent Oscar noms. Body horror at its finest. Demi Moore killing it. Dennis Quaid killing it. The sound design was so good at one point, I wasn't even looking at the screen and I almost threw up.
Okay, then I will never watch it.
It was surprisingly good.
I don't have the stomach for these kinds of movies, man. I
don't
can't do
actually.
That. No. If you can't stomach it when you're just listening to it, I ain't watching it.
Fair enough. I mean, I watched it again shortly afterwards and like watched the whole thing, and I was fine. I just wasn't ready for what was happening on screen.
See, you're more prepared for it.
3 titles to throw out. I won't really get into them at all, but Subservience with Megan Fox I found surprisingly entertaining. Cuckoo, just a really strange indie horror film that's on Shudder right now, recommended. And Heretic, which is really weird. Hugh Grant in a horror film. It starts off really, really well. Unfortunately, it doesn't stick the landing, but it's worth watching just for how tense the first half of the movie is. There's only 3 characters. So it's surprisingly good. Do you want to hit me with your last one?
Okay, so the last movie is probably my favorite movie I've watched in a long time. I went to the theater for it, which is something that I very seldom do now. And it was Deadpool and Wolverine. I loved it.
It's pretty great.
It is. Okay, so the 2 movies that we both have seen were both superhero movies. Got it.
Yes.
Like, I love Marvel. I love the MCU. I love superhero movies in general. I've been keeping up to date with all of them. I mean, hell, I watched Venom. I have Craven on my list. That should be one that I'm watching soon, even though I heard it was not good. But the Deadpool trilogy has not dropped the ball yet. And it got to the point where adding Wolverine, I think, was perfect. The 2 of them played off each other so well. And it is in contention with Marvel 97 as my favorite Marvel cinematic piece.
Yeah.
It is just so good. I love the action, the humor, the cameos, everything. I don't have one negative complaint. They picked a good NSYNC song. It was phenomenal. I went to the theater. I had a smile on my face like the whole time.
Yeah, the opening credits is some of the best I've ever seen.
Not just like, I get it. You know, like a lot of people grasped onto that and the whole like dancing to the NSYNC song became like a internet thing for a little bit. But even just the camera work, like he's swinging around body parts and the way that it like slows down time and lets you see a name on here and a name there. And like, it's just shot so well that it keeps you engaged and it keeps you entertained from start to finish. Like, I absolutely loved it. I don't really have any complaints. I love the characters that they brought in. I love the cameos. I'm so happy that we got to see, I don't know how spoilerific I can get, but like, I'll just say like some of the appearances of former characters were phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like I can't say enough good things about Deadpool and Wolverine, and I will be rewatching it multiple times.
Have you only seen it once?
Once so far, because I actually went to go see it in the theater with Alex. And then I rewatched the first two to rewatch the third one again with Josh. And I was waiting for him to finally rewatch it because he hadn't seen it yet. So I'm like, okay, when you watch it, I'll rewatch it. And then like he just tells me, oh yeah, I watched it with Amanda like a week ago. And I'm like, come on, man. I've been waiting for you to rewatch it. And you didn't even tell me at the time. So I will rewatch it now, but like, yeah, I would have rewatched it already if it wasn't for circumstance.
Yeah, it's definitely one I've seen at least 3 times now.
So good.
It's so good. Let's see if I might have a last one here. I still have a few titles, but is there anything strong to go out on?
Yeah, I bypassed a couple titles. You know, I said I had 9. I only talked about 7, but it's just because, you know, looking at the list and the amount of time it's taking, it's like, it's not worth, like, you know, something's getting sacrificed.
I don't know if I mentioned to you about a movie called The Vampire Next Door.
You did, during our Halloween episode.
Perfect. Then I won't mention that because I watched that again recently too.
You actually talked about Suitable Flesh on our Halloween episode as well.
Yes, I do remember that now too. But since I bought the Blu-ray, I watched it again recently. The Radleys, starring Damian Lewis, who most people know from like Homeland, earlier seasons. Vampires move in next door, and the Radleys are a vampire family.
Okay.
Damian Lewis plays dual roles, twin brothers in this, and does a great job in it. And it was just a really nice, refreshing vampire horror comedy. I know it's kind of played out, but they did a really good job with it. It was kind of one of those movies where, you know, you're probably not going to watch it again, but you're glad you at least saw it once.
Okay.
It was just one of those days where you don't really know what you're doing. It's like, it's rainy out. There's nothing to do. You've caught up on everything you wanted to get done. So you're just going to put on a movie and you just pick one at random and you actually end up enjoying it from start to finish. Have fond memory of the Radleys. And yeah, it's one of those things where if you stumble upon it, check it out. It was on, I believe it was on Tubi where I saw it, but I don't know if it's still there or not. If you come across it, check it out. It's fun.
Is it an older movie?
2024.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yep.
My favorite horror comedy, or not favorite all time, but like more recent one, was that Renfield one, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, if it's anything even close to in that vein, or like that meets, you know, Fright Night, I'm all for it.
It's closer to Fright Night than Renfield. It's not like that kind of slapstick humor that we got.
Yeah, but Fright Night didn't have the same like horror comedy. It was more just horror, right?
Yeah. This is more comedy than horror, but
yeah,
the situations are pretty horrific. So,
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, so that's what you're leaving us on.
I think that's probably it, because I know there's a lot more that I just haven't put on here. I think that's going to have to be it for now, yeah.
Honestly, we've probably hit like a good 20 plus titles anyway, so I figure that's
probably
good. For anybody who's still with us, thank you for tuning in. This has been our February 2025 intermission. Do keep an eye on socials. There could be regular episodes on the horizon. Hint, hint. But until then, have a good one.
All the best.